Good morning, students. This is just a short video to help you move through with these slides for lesson number 3 on the Constitution. Thank you for coming to class, and I'm sure that you will be paying attention as we go through some important information related to the Constitution. For this lesson, we're going to look at the years when major constitutional changes occurred in the Bahamas. We're going to contrast, show the differences and similarities between internal and external self-government constitutions in the Bahamas. And lastly, we're going to look at creating a chart that evaluates the constitutional changes of a modern-day Bahamas. When we say modern-day Bahamas, we're talking about recent years, not too far ago. Now, there are some key words that you would need to know in order to understand some of the information that you will be given. Internal refers to inside. External is the opposite, which refers to outside. Independence is freedom, and I know a lot of you are students who would love to have more freedom and more independence, but you are still under the control of your parent or guardian. Independence can also refer to self-governing, not dependent, and for this particular lesson, independence or freedom refers to the Bahamas no longer being a colony. What is a colony? A colony is a country that is ruled by another country, and the Bahamas was a colony of Britain. Britain was the mother country for the Bahamas for many years. And the last terminology or term is democratic monarchy. Now, democratic refers to a type of government, democratic government, and monarchy refers to a king or queen. It's another word for king, queen, or sovereign. So the Bahamas had a democratic, still does, has a democratic monarchy form of government. These are a few of the constitutional changes that the Bahamas had to go through in order to gain independence. Now remember, when you are under your parents, in your parents' home, the rules are different from when you are independent. In your parents' home, you may decide, the parent may decide that you have to be in the house by 10 o'clock or 12 o'clock. But when you get your own home and you become independent, you may change that rule. You may want to stay out until 1 o'clock, or you may want to come home earlier than the time your parents gave you. But I doubt that. Anyway, let's keep on going. Now, constitutional changes basically refers to how the laws in the Bahamas were changed. Now, the Bahamas went through 3 major constitutional changes in the modern or recent Bahamas. These constitutional changes include 1. The first one happened in 1964, and it was known as the Internal Self-Government Constitution. The second one happened in 1969, and it was known as the 1969 Constitution. And the last one, the one that we are still in today, happened in 1973, and we are still under this Constitution today. So these are the 3 dates that you need to remember in reference to constitutional changes in the Bahamas. Now we're going to briefly go through. In 1964, the constitutional changes were as follows. The Bahamas took its first big step towards independence in 1964 by making changes to its constitution or its laws. This constitution brought about what was called internal or inside self-governance. We were now in control of all internal matters in the country. And that was established under this constitution. Some of these changes were the power of the governor was reduced and the House of Assembly gained more power. The cabinet was established, and the cabinet is that body that has the ministers that advise the prime minister today. But in 1964, the prime minister was known as a premier. Further, the Senate was established in 1964. So those are some basic changes that happened to our Constitution in 1964. Now let us look at 1969. 1969 was when the Bahamas took its second big step towards independence. In 1969, we began to make further changes to our Constitution. This Constitution brought about external or outside government, which means that we now gain further control of our government. Our government now had a voice in external matters and control over internal security, such as the police. Some of the other changes under the 1969 Constitution include the power of the governor was further reduced, and you may ask, where did his power go? Since they took some of his power away, this power was now given to the House of Assembly. So the House of Assembly in 1969 gained more power. Yes, the royal governor that came from Great Britain to rule over the Bahamas and represent the King and Queen of Britain, because we were a colony and not independent, he had a lot of power. In fact, he had more power than the House of Assembly. So in 1964, some of his power was reduced, and in 69, his power was further reduced. The name Premier that I told you about earlier was now changed to Prime Minister in 1969, constitutional change. The islands of the Bahamas was now known as the Commonwealth of the Bahamas. So these are a few of the changes that came about in 1969. Now, in this particular slide, it shows differences between the 1964 and the 1969 constitutions. Basically, this diagram shows the contrasting differences, how they are similar and how they are different. In 1964, the leader of the party that had the majority of seats was called a premier. This changed in 1969 because that name was changed to prime minister. So the leader of the party with the majority of seats in 1969 was called the prime minister. The Senate was established in 1964, and the majority senators were chosen by the majority party and the opposition and the governor. In 1969, the government, whoever forms the government, would have the majority of senators in the House, in the Senate. And today, the Prime Minister, who would be the head of the government, he would be allowed to choose more senators than the leader of the opposition, which today is the PLP. How are these constitutions alike? Both of these constitutions happened before independence and prepared the country for independence. Power of the governor was reduced in both of these constitutions. And lastly, the 1973 constitutional changes. The Bahamas took its third and final big step towards independence in 1973. This is the year that we became independent and in control of our own affairs. This constitution brought about an independent government in the Bahamas. We were no longer a colony. What is a colony? A country that is ruled by another country. So we were no longer ruled by Great Britain. We were now free to manage all of our affairs. Just like when you become independent of your parents, you should not be going back to mom and going back to dad and saying, oh, my light bill cut off. I need to borrow $100. No, that means you're still dependent on your parents. You need to become independent, save your money, budget, plan correctly, and be able to pay your own BPL bill. That shows that you are independent. That's just a little example. Now, some changes that came under 1973 include the Queen Elizabeth II, who was our royal leader while we were a colony. She was now retained or kept as head of state of this country. However, she has no real power or authority in government affairs. She is represented by the Governor General because she does not live in the Bahamas. So her representative is the Governor General, and he nor the Queen has any real authority in how our government affairs are conducted and run. The government that is elected by the people became fully in control in the 1973 Constitution. So the Queen or the royal governor that was sent from Great Britain had no further control over our government affairs. We became a democratic monarchy. We became a democratic state or country, and we also had a monarch, which was Queen Elizabeth II. And lastly, our legislature or parliament could now make our own laws. We still do have some British laws, but we were now able and free and independent to make laws to govern ourselves. We will end with a beautiful song in tribute to our independent Bahamas.